Hi everyone. We're about to start, so please feel free to take a seat. Okay, the music, should we turn it on? Okay. Hi guys, thanks so much for coming out tonight. I'm Clarice, International Marketing Manager here at DCMN. I'm going to jump right in and ask a very important question. Why do businesses exist? To make a profit or to serve a purpose? For shareholders or for society? I think we can all agree here that profit is good, but it's only a byproduct. It is not the end goal. Businesses exist to serve a purpose, to make customers' lives better or to provide employees with a diverse and enriching workplace. But most importantly, to preserve the environment for future generations. Sustainability has long been viewed by companies as someone else's problem. Small companies thought it's big companies' problem, and big companies thought it's the government's problem. And governments, well, they thought it's the other country's problem. Isn't it fascinating that something so vital to our existence has been shrugged off for so long? The time has come for businesses to pursue sustainability, to take ownership, to no longer be bystanders saying it's someone else's problem, but rather to be the drivers of change. Even though we all know this is no easy feat, it's important to not get overwhelmed and numb by all the negative news about climate change and impending environmental disasters. Rather, we should take action and ownership, come up with meaningful solutions that could potentially help change this course we are on. At DCMN, we are very proud to have had the opportunity to run pro bono campaigns for some amazing NGOs. Currently, we're working closely with Together for Future to help motivate adults in Germany to take to the streets and support the younger generation fight for a future in which they can thrive. Besides pushing for change on the streets and in the workplace, more and more people are also realizing the power of their money to make a difference. As consumers and investors, we have the ability to invest our money into companies that we believe can make a true difference in the world. And we are seeing increasingly worldwide that socially responsible businesses perform better than their counterparts. We are very grateful to welcome some incredibly responsible businesses here tonight. But before we introduce the panel, we will hear from Lubomila, the CEO and founder of Plan A, who was also recently announced as a 30 under 30 social entrepreneur by Forbes. For those of you who don't know, Plan A is the first data-driven action platform in the fight against climate change. They're a Berlin-based startup developing an algorithm which predicts where and how climate change will hit the hardest, as well as a software that helps businesses monitor their sustainability and reduce their carbon footprint. She will talk to us today about the power of being true to sustainability. Please give her a warm welcome.
Thank you, brave people of Berlin that decided to leave their houses and join us here. I'm going to tell you a bit of a story. This is my story in entering the topic of sustainability. I'm not a sustainability professional by education. I self-educated myself when I learned how traumatic the situation was. It all started in 2017, and I decided to go on a surfing trip with some friends of mine. And the surfing trip was going to be happening in Morocco, and the normal thing that you do is you go on Google, you search the images, you see beautiful beaches, and you end up seeing dreams. But this is what the reality was. I ended up on the first day on a beach that was quite well known for its big waves, but not so well known for the waste that it was collecting as well. And within the span of 1 hour after I saw this, because I wasn't allowed in the water, given I was not that good of a surfer as well, I ended up collecting this. I kind of felt the urge after I saw what I just showed you. And within 1 hour, I collected 6 pairs of shoes, construction site materials, burned bottles of plastic, and a lot of human traces. This was for me probably kind of an aha moment, but predominantly it was just the opportunity to see that climate change does exist and humans do have something to do with it. At that point of time, my knowledge when it comes to climate change and pollution was that big, the size of this dot on the screen. And I kind of decided that I needed to expand this. And in order to do this, I went the traditional path, TED Talks, podcasts, books, and a lot of videos that were kind of explaining what the problem was. I gained a lot of confidence out of this, not about myself, but about the fact that there was a problem that needed to be solved, and ended up figuring out, after all of this research, 3 particular focus topics. One was that businesses were the key to driving the agenda behind fighting climate change. The reason for this was that they were moving masses of not only capital, but also people all around the world, and they were changing and shaping their minds in so many ways. The second aspect was that climate change, regardless of the fact that it was significantly neglected all throughout the decades in which they were talking to us about climate change and its importance, had to be in the prime of all the solutions that were coming out. The final point was that there was a need for a collaborative approach. It was not going to work if only the scientists were the ones that were getting the attention, or only the corporates were the ones that were being put in the prime. It was about everyone working together. So this was how Planet was born. I essentially quit my job and decided to build a company that kind of changed its shape and forms over the years. It's been 3 years, but it feels like it's been a lot longer because a lot of knowledge has been accumulated. And we ended up at first building an academy. Our academy is the place where we disseminate scientific knowledge up to today. And this is where we give an opportunity to influential people from the science community to speak in a digestible and understandable manner to all of us and connect us to the issues that they're addressing. The second thing that we built was the algorithm that was kindly mentioned, that essentially looks at over 305, actually since yesterday, 1,000 data points, particularly related to oceans, forests, wildlife, sustainable living, sustainable energy, and waste management, to be able to predict on a country-by-country level what are the biggest environmental priorities and how natural resources are going to shift in terms of availability, to be able to help companies understand how they can become more sustainable and less harmful to the planet. The next thing that we built was an encyclopedia. Using all of these data points, you actually have a lot to speak about. So we built an open space where each one of you, each one of us can go, click on a country and essentially understand what's the status quo at the moment when it comes to climate change. And then this brings us to today. A lot of learning happened over these 3 years, and it kind of was really clear since the beginning that we had to work with businesses, and we took good 1 year to understand what was the best way to help them. What we built and launched in December last year was a software that helps companies calculate, monitor, and reduce their emissions. The point of this software is to allow companies to embed sustainability into their organizations without having to battle through science, but more relying on science, using our tool to essentially be able to learn how they can work with the topic. What the software does in practice is essentially it analyzes the data, it then builds a dashboard for the company, and based on this dashboard, it builds a sustainability action plan that is based on the worst performing indicators of the company that changes each month. So this is the three things that the software does: carbon monitoring, action plans, and offsetting. And this is some awesome numbers because we're proud to have achieved a lot over the years. But I'm here to talk to you about what we have learned by working with a lot of companies that you hear about some of them just in a second. The one thing that we've learned from all these years is that the truth behind being sustainable is actually being true to sustainability. And what this means is that there's a lot of knowledge out there that we need to apply, and there's certain things that we should not be doing as well. So what are the key lessons? Lesson number one, sustainability is a journey. Quite often we've been explained over the last few months, and especially in Germany, because there's a lot of discussion about the topic, that you can have a one-stop shop that helps you become sustainable immediately. The truth is that it's not possible to do it like that. I'll give you an example of a client of ours. We work with Werder Bremen, the football club. And what they did on our first meeting with them was that they told us, well, it's not possible for us to speak about sustainability, even though we have one of the few in the world solar paneled stadiums. I was like, how is it not possible? You have something to speak about. This is part of your journey. This is one of the steps that you've taken to become more sustainable. They said that they're going to be scrutinized by media because of the fact that they haven't gone through all the steps of becoming sustainable. I beg to differ. It's actually about taking all the small steps that you can and being open about the fact that you are authentic to your own journey. The second lesson is that sustainability is successful if your team is involved. There's no top-down agenda anymore on any topic. Sustainability is one of them. We speak about community, we speak about empowering our employees, but the truth is that this is not anymore just a speech. It's also something that is being demanded across all sectors. This is an example of, again, work together with some of our partners. This is Delivery Hero. Essentially what they did over the last few months, and what they have something in October, is something called the Hero Month. This is a month when all of the employees are allowed to essentially dedicate a lot of their time to activities for good. And one of the topics was, of course, sustainability. And we did the biggest event. We actually did two with them and collected this within 3 hours in Mauer Park. We collected this. And this was one of the posts that created, yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? Seeing all your faces. And this is, you know, the fun that happens on Sunday. And we also organized another event in Böckler Park, next to Prinzenstraße, where we collected, you can see there's a lot of interesting items out there. This was the event that created the biggest buzz on social media for Delivery Hero for a while. And it was the one that was the most popular across all of the things that they did in the Hero Month. Why? Because all of these employees reshared and they showed what they had done and how their company was actually going on their journey to become sustainable. Lesson number 3, sustainability is successful if your community is involved. So this is another one. Again, it's a cleanup, but it's a different one. With Tier Mobility, we probably know one of the scooter companies in Berlin. And what we did was, together with Decathlon and Tier, we got 700 people to come on scooters to the park. It was in Treptower Park. And there was essentially 700 people that came, and over 20,000 people spoke online about this. Again, this shows that, you know, and also obviously Tier saw a lot of increase in the usage of their product. This shows that if you connect to the activities that your customers and your community does, you have the opportunity to essentially make them part of your own sustainability journey, and then essentially benefit even potentially financially from that. Lesson number 4, offsetting is not going to cut it. So I speak quite openly about offsetting and the problems of this topic, because now there's a lot of companies popping up that do only offsetting, and it's okay as long as it's a part of the journey, and it's not the only thing that you take into account. Today, a study that was done on over 17 million people was surveyed, came out, and it turned out that sustainability has become not only an employee expectation, but there's 120% increase in customer, especially from Generation Z, in customer alignment, so that people essentially want to buy sustainable products. 17 million people, this is a lot of people. And all of them spoke about sustainability as the main topic that they want to be hearing when it comes to their employers doing something with regards to society. Lesson number 5, greenwashing is not an option anymore. So this generic and beautiful image is just a reminder. So I don't know how many of you followed the news, but BP announced 2 weeks ago that they're going to become carbon neutral, funnily enough, and that they're going to do it within the next 2025, so like 5 years. That's great, sounds ambitious and impossible. But it led to a lot of drama online. Essentially, not only that this company that is not focused on having the best social media, but certainly puts a lot of money into this, they got laughed at. And it kind of shows that we've gone through our maturity, we've become a lot more mature about understanding what it actually means to be true to sustainability. So, finishing, what is the power of being true to sustainability? I would say that it's being you. All of us are different. All of us are building different companies. All of us work for different companies. And the authentic journey of every single brand to understand what their sustainability means for them is really unique. And if you remove this opportunity to be unique, you allow for companies, for consumers, and your employees to understand you as a template. I know that all of us here don't want to be considered as such, and this, our lovely host, is kind of a validation that many, many, many companies do not want to be considered as a template. So use this opportunity. And of course, rely on science. Thank you.
Thank you, Lubomila. I'm going to ask the panelists to come up now. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone also for joining. I know we mentioned it's a bit of a tough time right now, so it's good to see such a busy crowd. Our consumer behavior, Mike, we're good. Our consumer behavior seems to be shifting, and obviously it's looking much more green. A recent consumer report from Nielsen showed that consumers are making a demand for more. Do we have a mic issue? We also conducted a study here at DCMN, and the results showed that 58% of consumers are looking for more environmentally friendly packaging when it comes to purchasing, and 57% are looking for more natural ingredients. We've also seen from Lubomila's results that it's clear, and it's no surprise, that the potential for more sustainable brands is huge. And joining me on stage, I have 3 wonderful panelists who are all contributing to a more sustainable world in their own unique way. First, we have Génica from Ecosia. Ecosia is a search engine donating at least 80% of its profits to non-profit organizations to reforestation. We now have Jonathan from Grover. It's a platform for renting electronic goods and working with a circular economy business model. And last over there, you can squeeze up a little if you want. We have Lara from PIABO PR, a leading PR agency who's developed a green tech initiative to help green business models develop a communication concept. So welcome, thank you guys. I first want to start out just by mentioning the previous report we heard, specifically talking about the consumers. Why do you guys think that we're seeing such a shift in consumer behavior towards more sustainable brands? If it doesn't work, then...
I think it's something to do with a shift in the perception within our generation as well, because we are the ones who are coming to the forefront of everything that we're doing. We're starting businesses. We are now not the old school anymore, who are realizing that that they believe in something that isn't true. We are actually seeing the effects that sustainability needs to have on our world, and we know what the impact is, and we know what we need to do to deliver the positive results, basically. So. Do you want to share?
Sharing economy. I also think that the effect of climate change has become more tangible for all of us living in Germany or Europe or the US. Before, it has also been tangible in other countries, but not as tangible as it was in the last summer, for instance, and will be again in this summer. And I think this is one of the reasons why the whole society is now really getting a feeling of the urgency that we are encountering. And I think this is also putting more pressure on consumer behavior, I would guess.
Lara?
Right. I think every one of us as consumers can change, obviously, but also as employees. And I think that's something that's becoming increasingly important as well. Because obviously we expect politics to act. We ourselves can change. We do the little things, change our behaviors. But then also as an employee, we might want to work for a good company, for a purpose company. So I think we're very much moving from why do we need to act to how can we actually make a difference.
I think also touching on the wanting to work for these type of companies, maybe you guys can give some background on how your companies are best contributing to a more sustainable ecosystem.
Shall I start? So yeah, Ecosia is a search engine. Everyone needs a search engine nowadays. Everyone's using one, right? And what Ecosia does is the money we make off ads, just like Google does makes their money off ads, we use to plant trees when they are needed most. And these trees are bringing back biodiversities, help local communities, clean air, filter CO2, so many good effects. And I think this is our contribution. So far we've planted, I think, like 87 million trees or so that are still standing, which is a lot, but just a little tiny bit when you look at the ones that get cut down every year. So if you really want to do something about trees, you could use Ecosia and eat less meat, because most of the trees get cut down because of meat consumption.
Sure. At Grover, for those who don't know, we're a circular economy company who we're a subscription platform for consumer electronics. So the general public can rent per month equipment. They can get it sent to them. When they're finished with it, it gets sent back, it gets refurbished, and then gets sent to another member of the general public. Or if you're a B2B customer, it's likewise. So basically what it does is the product itself is circulated. So once someone is done with it, it gets sent back, and then we actually keep that away from the scrap heap, away from anywhere that it will be just put aside, and it actually optimizes the value of the product and keeps it within circulation. That is basically what we do. Yeah.
Yeah, for PIABO, it's mainly the clients that we represent, really. But we ourselves also have a sustainability initiative that always aims at making our own footprint a little lower or a little better. So for example, we only order in vegetarian food. We've got reusable bottles for tap water. We're a paperless office. There's lots of initiatives internally, but I think with the green tech and sustainability initiative that we have, we try and make a difference with the clients that we work for.
And is there any other internal initiatives that you guys have to work towards sustainability?
Quite a couple, I think. The most disruptive one is that if you want to attend a climate activism activity, you can do that during your work hours. So when it comes to Fridays for Future, for instance, we're all on the streets always, at least when it comes to the global strikes. And it's in our work time. And I think this is just showing to our users and to the members of the team how important this topic is to us. And then, well, we just buy mostly local food. We run everything on renewable energy. It's just like these little changes then make a bigger impact and give us employees also the feeling that that's authentic what we do.
I think that's pretty fitting because according to the Nielsen study, the consumers claimed that any sustainability claim that companies have should be reflected both inside and out. So it's all very well doing all the external initiatives, but unless you're kind of living and breathing that, then I think the consumer is also getting much smarter towards this and is able to identify that too. I actually want to switch to more external initiatives now. So we spoke previously about some of the external initiatives that companies are taking, for example, more eco-friendly packaging or more natural ingredients. Another big initiative seems to be tree planting. And I even saw most recently that McDonald's did their own tree planting initiative, which sounds ridiculous to me, but Génica, can you maybe explain how Ecosia do it differently?
Yes, I can. I was also very surprised that McDonald's did that because, again, beef is mainly responsible for cutting down trees. So if you buy one burger, it doesn't really help if you then plant one tree. And also, I think I think it's the customers who pay for the trees, not really McDonald's. It was just one day that they paid. But at least they chose a very good partner, from what I can say. So many companies and initiatives are now planting trees because a tree is such an easy symbol to understand, such an easy way to feel better, right? But the truth is that many tree planting projects don't do it right. So they don't include the local communities. They just go there, buy the land, and put trees there. But it's really, you have to work with the people who live there. Then they usually, not usually, but many of them plant invasive species. That is not good for the biodiversity at all, or the soil. And many, especially when it comes to offsetting, they plant monocultures. And that is also really, really bad for the soil and the biodiversity. So if you think about tree planting, or if you want to feel good and plant a tree, which is great, then maybe really dig deep and see where do they plant the trees, why, how do they do it, and do they take care of the tree planting after the planting, of the trees after the planting, because this is also a really important thing to do. They don't survive the first 3 years on their own if it's a really tough area to plant trees in.
Can you already recommend any initiatives that you know that do it well or do it properly?
All the initiatives we work with. So one that is really good is Eden Reforestation. They mainly plant in Madagascar, and they plant mangroves that are enriching the soil again. They are habitat to fish that then can be eaten by the people that are living there. So Eden Reforestation is a good initiative.
Good. And I just want to ask how successful the business model has been for you.
Well, very successful, meaning that we were able to plant so many trees. And just within 2019, we planted 35 million of the 85, 86 million trees. So, and Ecosia was found in 2009. So there has been quite some growth in the past 2 years, mainly, which also maybe reflects the society we live in and the consumers and their needs. So it was very successful, but not really for us because, I mean, our founder gave away his shares. He can never sell Ecosia. He can never take out profits. It's really going directly into our planet, really.
And aside from the tree planting initiatives, which are obviously very popular, another popular scheme seems to be the circular economy. For those that you don't know, and I think also Jonathan mentioned, it's basically the concept that instead of buying the goods, you rather recycle into it. So it's continually using the resources. And it's estimated by 2025, this is going to be the most dominant way of using goods. I wanted to ask a little bit on your side, Jonathan, for companies that want to introduce a more of a circular economy model, what are some of the key components that they should be considering?
I would say that you have to look at basically every process, outer and inner, within your company. For us, as a circular company, we know what we have to do. We're aware that our process is intrinsically linked to a circular way of thinking. But obviously, one of the issues that we have to address is the end of life cycle for our products. So that is where we are focusing at the moment. Our focus is on we actually have to, once the product has been circulated as much as it can, as much value has been gotten out of the product, we then have to resell it, or then we do give it on to a recycling body at the end of life. So one of the things that we would say to other companies is your product offering actually circular? So there's no point just saying, oh, we need to be sustainable, we need to be circular, what can we do? If your product is A to B and you're doing one thing, and then at the end of life of your product is someone is using it and there's nothing else that can be done, say it's a software, or say it's a product that someone has bought that they're not going to send back, they're just going to use it, then you have to address maybe internally where you can be more sustainable, or where you can circulate yourself. So that is it. So basically just addressing the inner processes of what your company can do. So whether it's even like just on like a freelancer basis, if you're hiring freelancers, like what can they do to not come to the office so much? Can you actually do outboard calls? Can you actually do anything, like can you use less paper in the office? Can you do anything? That is basically it. So just address the innermost workings of the company. And
but there's not necessarily a like recycling plan or program that you have in place for the end of life products, right?
Right now there isn't. We have to be real with this. We have bodies. So say if a product is actually completely destroyed, then we will give it to the local municipalities to actually break down, do with it what they can. But if the product is still usable, then we will resell it. And
what type of success are you seeing from this? What type of users are you getting? Is it a growing model that's working for you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the adoption of it is quite high now. At the beginning when we started, people were like, why would I rent a product? What is the point of doing this? But now we can actually see that people, once they know that we are giving it to other people after it is being used, people are generally accepting it more. They're adopting the whole circular vision. But yeah, no, it's definitely like, so to give some figures, like in 2019, we recirculated 100,000 products. If you actually look at this in numbers, it's about 36 months a particular product is circulated. So that's like, and it circulates around like five times. And so say if a person was actually going to go to buy a product instead, but they saw Grover and rented it, that's actually saving a lot. I think it was, I can't remember the exact figures. I actually have them in my back pocket, excuse me. Because they do change every day, I promise. Yeah, so the e-waste saved to date is around 360 metric tons, but that's based on the actual purchase. So if someone's actually going to purchase and they instead go to rent a product, that is the metric ton of that we're saving is 360. And the CO2 saved from that. So the production of the product, if someone was to go to purchase it instead, is it's just over 4,000 metric tons of CO2 saved.
Wow, some big numbers there.
Yeah, they change every day, it's mental.
Good. So, I mean, there's many initiatives that people can take, whether it's tree planting, circular economy. Of course, internally would make sense to also have the structure in place where you are clearly a sustainable company. But I think the topic that is most important is how we communicate that, or how do you communicate that to the consumers? Lara, you are helping brands come up with innovative communication concepts. What advice would you give to brands to storytell authentically?
Right, with storytelling, it's really important that people connect with a story, a meaning, and a cause. So it's one way of doing it is just showing the progress, right? I think you already mentioned it. It's also important to show you're going the right way, you take the steps, you've got initiatives in place. So so people will really be interested in hearing your problems, your challenges on the way, anything that they can connect with that has a very strong impact. And another good way to storytell is obviously using people. So tell the founder's story, for example, make it a real story about a real person. And that's in the end, we'll identify with that person. So that's a more interesting story for us then to read.
Yeah, definitely. Génica, how have Ecosia decided to communicate authentically?
I think what we did first was to look at our values and to see what was important to us. And one very important value was transparency, for instance. We said, people need to choose us over Google. How do we do that? Well, we say we say we use the money we make off your search behavior to plant trees. We need to prove that. So we publish our financial reports every month, and you can really see what was the revenue, how was the money spent. You can see everything, and this is quite popular. And I think this decision to really look at our values and then act on it, I think that that was very helpful for our communication. Same with our data privacy. So in the beginning, we collected data just like everyone else, and then we were like, hey, wait a second, why do we do that? What data do we really need? And then we decided, okay, we wouldn't create user profiles anymore, so everyone gets neutral search results. But it was very true to ourselves, and it felt right, and I think it felt right for our users as well, and that was important.
I've also seen some other brands, for example, more on the clothing side of things, like Patagonia or Everlane, and they have started now to communicate basically the entire life cycle of the product. So that includes what liters of water was used in the development, for example, what the carbon footprint would be in the transportation. Do you think it's necessary to be that detailed in your level of communication?
I think it depends very much on the company, but in the case of Patagonia especially, I think yes, because you make a claim and you want to be authentic, so prove yourself. And also I think as a sustainable company, or as a company that claims to care about sustainability, you have a responsibility to educate the people. And when it comes to clothing, most people don't know how much water it costs to produce a pair of jeans. And if you're a company who cares, show it and be transparent. Yeah.
And Jonathan, maybe on the other side of that, because I'm wondering how Grover has chosen to communicate their sustainable path.
Well, that's the thing. We don't actively market ourselves as a sustainable company. It's kind of intrinsically linked into the nature of our business. And being a young company, we can't say that at the end of life cycle that we do recycle products ourselves. We do not have the means. We're only so many years old. And obviously this research and development topic needs a lot of funding to be able to know what we're going to do. But we are actually the forerunner in the consumer electronics circular economy field, where we are actually bringing manufacturers, products, brands into this way of thinking, and consumers themselves into thinking like, how surely if you're revolving the door and allowing people to experience tech continuously, and you're also allowing multiple people to use the products, then what does happen? So I think it's the fact that we say that the customer will know that they're not going to get potentially a new product when they get the product. Potentially they might get a new one. That's down to luck, or it's down to a new release. But then the next customer may not get it. But that's what people know, and they're willing to accept that, because usually the consumer way of thinking is, I need something new. I need it now. I'm going to use it. Then I'm just going to let it go. But surely, why is that the case? Surely you should be able to use a product to get the most value that you need out of it, and then be able to give it back. Yeah.
Fair point. I just want to touch on, lastly, maybe the topic of greenwashing, because I know Lubomila also mentioned it, and I think it's also super important because at this stage, it's becoming almost hard to decipher what greenwashing is, because there's so many loopholes in between. We have also seen some major examples. I mean, you could maybe argue McDonald's and their tree initiative is slightly controversial, but some of the major ones also in the fast fashion industry, for example, H&M's Conscious collection, where H&M being the biggest contributors to fast fashion, but now they slap a conscious label on it, it's all good. Is there any examples that you've seen that you found quite shocking?
I personally, without attacking the oil industry, I think that any green energy initiative from like an oil company is kind of greenwashing itself. You know, like it's not to overly criticize, but it's basically anything that Exxon does or BP is to say that we're doing green energy. It kind of seems like a bit of bullshit to me, but that's just it.
So we have something that we offer to bigger companies that want to use Ecosia as a search engine, which is an individual tree counter for the company. So they know they can actually motivate the people to use Ecosia by communicating how many trees were financed just by the employees. somehow more and more companies learned about that, and so we had to say, okay, only really big companies. But then some really big companies approached us that had actually, I don't know, like really big car production companies. And they approached us and it was super nice, and they gave us great insight on what they do when it comes to sustainability, because they knew they will only get us if they proved themselves. But then the more you ask, the clearer it got that they were just like faking it to themselves even, you know. They were like, yeah, we would be then CO2 neutral by 2050. Okay, so why not earlier? I mean, 2050 is quite late. So luckily we're in the position to ask these questions because we don't depend on these companies to switch to Ecosia. And then it was about a very specific production site. I asked, okay, are all your production sites running on renewable energy, even this one? They were like, no, actually this one's running on lignite. And I was like, okay, well, I'm sorry, but we can't support that. And even the business model itself is already harming the environment so much. So yeah, that's why we had to let it go. And maybe we left some impact there, but this is, I think, there we were really endangered to run into a greenwashing situation, I think.
Yeah, I like to mention Fiji Water. So just, yeah, right. Lots of people already know, just imagine like a skyline, a gray skyline, a terrible one. And in the shape of a bottle, you have a beautiful landscape, a green landscape, natural environment. And that's sort of the advertisement of Fiji Water. When in reality, obviously, the water is shipped really far. It's in plastic bottles. Not even talking about the people in Fiji not actually having 50% of them not even actually having access to clean drinking water. So that's a social aspect as well. But the thing is, Fiji Water doesn't actually say we're green, we're sustainable, or anything like that. It's more the image they create, and that could also already be considered greenwashing, right? It's not necessarily about what you actually say, how green you are, because that's a claim that could actually be proven wrong. But it's also about the image that you create in your campaigns.
And from your experience also working rather in the communication field, what ways would you advise preventing against greenwashing in your communication efforts?
I mean, it's not so much about preventing it, because that would mean you sort of accidentally greenwashed, right? That doesn't happen. It's certainly a purpose. When it happens, it's on purpose. I just believe that you have to be true and honest about every statement that you make. Definitely question the statements that you make, and then it doesn't sort of just happen. Another thing is, don't omit anything. If an issue could come up, just make sure you've included it somewhere in your messaging, because that also could be perceived as greenwashing. And be clear in your wording, because even that, if you're not clear about it, people might not understand it correctly. So you have to be really clear. We always advise to use the right words and to really question everything that you put out there.
And you guys have the Green Tech Initiative, right? So what measures are you taking at PIABO to make sure that the companies that you're basically working with are truly as green as they claim?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Obviously, well, we look at the UN's Sustainable Development Goals and their environmental measures as well. So we look whether the company actually has the purpose that makes it sort of greener. For us, it's just about sustainability. So you've got green tech, so basically something green and technology, like for example, a client of PIABO's is Green City Solutions, a really interesting company that's actually releasing a new model of the city tree tomorrow. And they have a sort of moss wall on a bench, behind a bench, a public bench, and IoT technology that knows when to water the moss, etc. And that combination is clearly, the green tech initiatives that we would we would go for. It's more basic than that as well. We represent, for example, a charging solutions provider, Compleo, or Momox would be a client. They are a re-commerce platform. So you can sell and buy used books and used clothing on their platform. So it's a really wide range of clients that we have in the area, but there's no real measure to say, okay, this is a very clean, a green or clean client, or this isn't. So it's always, you have to sort of, there's not really one measure.
I think I would like to add something to the topic of greenwashing. So I think companies like H&M or Zalando are very often or very fast seen as companies that do greenwashing, whatever they do. It's just a direct response from the public. But we shouldn't forget that we need these players to bring change to what they do. So they need to do something, because if they have such a big reach and such a big, they have power basically, really. So what would be a good start for a company that is maybe afraid to communicate sustainability because they're afraid of greenwashing claims, is to start an open discussion with their customers, with the public. However, and just start a discussion of what do you want us to change, and then really discuss when could they do it, why can they not do it now, why can they not change it, just really make it a transparent and lively discussion. And then I think you're not really walking into a greenwashing zone, but really show that you're on a way to improvement. And I would love to see H&M do that.
I think Zalando actually did that recently. They launched their sustainability program and made it quite public, and so they're obviously taking the steps into the right direction. And I think just voicing that is the first step in the greenwashing topic. Just to wrap up, first of all, thank you very much on stage, but I want to ask maybe what your one piece of advice would be for brands to become more sustainable.
Shall I start? I guess for the number, if I had to pick one, right, it's probably set an example yourself, because everyone is involved in the change. It's not a top-down approach, it's not a bottom-up approach. Everyone has to be involved. Obviously, you have, from the C-suite level, you'll have to be given the tools to make a change. So that's very important, but every single one of us can be a little part of the change, as an employee, as an individual.
Sure. So, cheers. So yeah, just basically know exactly is what the goal is that your company needs to do to be sustainable. So address what's possible and negate what is impossible, and just don't promise too much, basically.
For me, it would be two things. One, change your energy provider, because even if you think that you're running on renewable energy, most of the time you're not really, because it's just bought somewhere in some areas where you don't really know where it's coming from. So I would recommend Greenpeace Energy or Naturstrom or EWS Schönau, for instance. It's already big change to your company, believe me. And then on the second thing is make the CSR person part of your DNA, or the CSR team part of the DNA of the company, and really bring them in on team decisions in marketing, in product development, everywhere. Because if CSR is part of the DNA of the company, then they should be part of the decision process as well.
Thank you very much. We're now going to switch to some audience questions. I think there's some microphones.
Anyone got a question? Yes.
Hi, my name is Emma. I work for Ecoligo. I had a question to Jonathan. So from what you were saying about Grover, it sounds like you have obviously a sustainable, like the company is sustainable because it's promoting the circular economy. But as you're not promoting that, like, did you start it as a sustainable company,
Or was it that you started the business model because you thought it was a good business model and then you realized that it's also sustainable?
The model was started as a circular model, yeah.
Okay.
So, but the intention was to get the products into circulation and then keep them in circulation for as long as possible.
Okay. Cool. It wasn't a criticism. I think it's cool that maybe you can have business models that are like, yeah, having profit.
We have one, Zilka, down here.
My question would be the circular economy. What do you think about the question that the customers have a really easy ability to get the latest products, and due to this reason, they consume more, and due to this reason, the companies produce more products, and due to this reason, we do have at least more products on the market and more production and more CO2 and all that stuff. What is the answer to this?
Sure, but that's more of a case of capitalism within itself. Like, we're offering a solution for the products that are in existence to get circulated. Like, if the general consensus is everyone would like to rent the products, then they will rent the products. I don't think that the amount of consumption will go up. The amount of production will go up if the amount of consumption goes up, because once someone is done with the product, then someone will actually be wanting the product. Like, this is something that is quite hard to predict, because obviously if everyone suddenly turns to a circular model and is renting from each other, then it's impossible to predict those figures now. But surely, based on different products and people switching, then it may turn out that it will actually work out that people will switch to different products that have come out at the same time and actually negate the production amount.
But in this case, I think it's also really important that companies that produce high quality products, such as Apple or something like this, that they have a much longer product lifetime. Because actually it's like when the new iPhone comes up, everybody wants to have it. And it doesn't matter what it's about 1,000 euros or 1,500 euros. Everybody wants to have it. And the iPhone XS, that's almost maybe a year old, it's away. And you can get it from Rebuy, from Momax, from everybody. Everybody sells this at least good and nice product. And the differentiation between the iPhone 11 and the iPhone XS is nonsense in this case. So I think it's also for the producers, for the brands, for the big brands like Samsung, Huawei, and all the other producers to make products live longer, so that you can use them longer, at least provide more updates, not only for 1 or 2 years, at least for the next 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah, sure, that would be the onus on the producers themselves. Like, it's quite hard, because obviously Apple and Samsung do bring out products, like every 8 to 10 months. So as soon as you basically bought a Samsung or an iPhone or any other leading brand, if you go to then if you go to then use it for 3 months, you know it's going to be obsolete in another 3 months, basically, like almost obsolete. So I think if you can then send it back to someone and then get the other, and then pay less to rent the other one, then this one is now in circulation for someone else to use. It's not just cast aside.
Yeah, of course. And my last question, because nobody else wants to ask questions, would be to all of you. I just a few days ago I read an article, and it claims that sustainability is a nice thing. Everybody wants to go bio, everything should be vegan and all that stuff, but it ends up that only people that can afford this really expensive products go and use this vegan, bio, all that claims. And the tricky thing is that they consume more and more, and their CO2 production is higher than the average CO2 production by the regular customers, because they can't afford. They just buy the regular products, non-bio, non-vegan, or all this stuff, and everybody else goes to the supermarket and takes at least 5 or 6 packages of these vegan products for high value, and feels good by putting it in his eco-refrigerator from the latest generation and controlling it with his iPhone 11 with Wi-Fi and all that stuff. So what is the solution by bringing the sustainability to everybody, not just to the people that can afford and that have the money for it? Because we are all talking to each other from the point of view that we have a lot of money and we want to have a lifetime value and everything is fine. But I see a lot of people out there, they come home with about 1,200 euros. They can't at least put something by side, or they can't afford a lot. So what is the solution to bring them into the sustainability?
You're right. I think sustainability shouldn't be a luxury. I think most of the time it's not. I mean, if you look at vegan food, you can of course buy the expensive products, but you don't have to. The healthier way is actually you just buy beans and vegetables that are this is basically the cheapest. But what we need is really a political change, a political system that supports the idea of sustainability and gives a framework for everyone to live in. And if you want to support that, you could go demonstrate with Fridays for Future or Extinction Rebellion, because that is what they are asking for. They don't ask the individuals to cut down. They ask the politicians to offer deals that make it an option for us to live sustainable without cutting down or without spending too much money.
Thank you.
Hi guys. I totally understand this is a really high pressure scenario for you to sit in a panel about. There's a lot of critical questions that have to be asked. And you guys are also all representing brands, so I totally get that. It's really easy, I think, to talk about the way the brand and can adapt to sustainability. I think it's really easy to talk very in German, grob, about how we can change things. What are some things that you guys do as passionate people about sustainability day to day, without talking about brand, without talking about responsibility in a corporate way? What are some things that you guys do that you would love to give to an audience of people who are also passionate about that? That's my question.
I find it funny that you asked this question, because I just recently read a book that is called Vom Ende der Klimakrise, about the end of the climate crisis, by Luisa Neubauer, the activist here in Germany. And she's asked this question quite often during panels. Most of the time it's the last question. And no, all good. No, it's not about you, but it's about these panels that are focusing on sustainability and then redirecting the conversation to the individual, because it makes sense. All of us should look at what auto brands look at what we can do, but in the end it comes down to who are the ones empowered, and it's basically it's brands, it's companies, and it's politicians and politics. And I think we need to focus on that. But if you want to know, and if I have to prove myself now, but I think, again, what you can do as an individual, if you look at, I mean, most of the time you're focusing on CO2, right? It's not only CO2, but we can focus on that. So then it's really about, again, the energy provider you're using for your home. So I live with 7 people, 8 people being using Naturstrom is already an impact we can have. Don't eat meat maybe, or at least reduce the meat consumption and look at where the meat is coming from that you're eating. Same with butter, unfortunately. The CO2 footprint of butter is really bad. I think, yeah, basically it's that. And then I love taking the train. I'm so fortunate that I love train riding. So for me, it's not hard to cut down on flights, but that's also what I do, and just taking my bike most of the time.
I don't buy new clothes. Yeah, no, deadly serious. There's no point. There's loads of clothes out there. Just wear the other ones. It's true.
I do sometimes buy clothes, but probably do most of the things that were mentioned here before. And I also think we should make this a personal question, because the things that are right for me that I can change, like I'm a vegetarian and I have been for many years, might not be the right things for you. So I don't think that's something we should be focusing on here. But happy to talk to you after this.
Hello, I'm Björn. I'm from Team Mobility actually, and I'm wanting to ask to Grover about the circular economy because we're also focusing on the recycling part, trying to make our old scooters becoming part of the whole cycle, but we're really struggling in the sourcing side. So how can you make sure that from your providers, GoPro or whoever DJI you're buying from, that they use recycled materials in their production? Because we have the same discussions with our Chinese manufacturers, and first of all, most of them don't even know what we're talking about. And then it's really hard to...
You're struggling from the sourcing side, as in the sourcing of the products, so the materials you're sourcing to make the products.
Yeah, so to have the full cycle, on the one side, we want to make that our old products become part of the cycle, but then on the sourcing side, we want that the aluminum has as much recycled content as possible, same as the battery. So, and we are really struggling to explain this to the Chinese manufacturers. How are you handling this?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's the next step. Like at the moment, we have no manufacturers on board to actually address the need for the end of life of the product. So basically, you know, with Apple, they have the buyback scheme where they take back products and then they break them down and whatever, and then they give the new product for a discount. We're actually reaching out to brands, the brands that we use to rent the products, how they are doing this, but we don't actually have a solution yet. And as I said, as a 5-year-old company, we don't actually have the resources to actually put into practice a recycling system as of yet.
Same here.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you guys for the discussion. And maybe going back to your question about personal choices, we have some lovely vegan food, so you're welcome to help yourself. We also have some drinks, so please feel free to network and give the panel discussion a big round of applause. So thank you.
Yeah,